Here we are for another QFloors webinar. Thank you for being here today. Looks like we have a handful of QFloors users participating. Today's webinar is reconciling your checkbook using a file downloaded from your bank's website. There is an instruction document on our website on QFloors.com on how to set up the bank's file after you've downloaded it from your bank. Downloading it from your bank is something you'll have to figure out with your bank. The type of file that you need is a CSV file. That's if you've imported any other files into QFloors or exported data from QFloors, that's the same type of file. CSV file stands for comma separated values. You can create just pointing out what a comma separated value file is. It's really just a text document. I right-click that here on the desktop and click New Text Document. If your computer is not set to show the file extension, the .txt, if you don't see that, then you'll need to work out with your computer tech on how to change that if you want it. You don't absolutely have to have that, but in order to change this type of file later, you can create a text document. Comma separated value simply means every value is separated by a comma. We'll leave it at that. No, we'll put comma. Check number was this. Description is and let's make that a negative. I'm going to leave that as is. So when we close this, we'll save that data, but if we change the name of it, right-click, rename, and we take the TXT off and make this CSV, Windows warns you that might not be usable anymore if you change that extension. Notice that the symbol changed. We can do that again. We can switch it back to text. It's a text document. It's a spreadsheet document. And you open that, double click, and there it is. There's our data. Now we could have just created a spreadsheet file. Let's close this and don't save any changes. We can right click out here, click New, and create a new spreadsheet. Open that up and put in here some data. See if it's, we'll do a negative, and then we don't have to use this over here. We'll talk about that later. So if we save this, it's just a spreadsheet. We'll save it, but we can do I don't know this new. Already save as, and we can change the type. Sorry, let me do that again. This save as type, you can save it as a CSV, comma delimited. It doesn't support multiple worksheets. Here we have these multiple worksheets. When you start a spreadsheet, it has those down there. we'll click OK, and it's going to save just the active sheet as the CSV file. If there's any bold characters or formulas, graphics, images, formatting, customized stuff, it's all gone, because as we saw earlier, a CSV file is really just a text file. There's nothing fancy about it at all. So we'll say to keep this format, leaves out any incompatible features, yes. So you can do it that way. Now you're going to be downloading your data. Here's our CSV here. It kept our spreadsheet. We saved it as a CSV. So I'm going to get rid of those. Don't need them. Now you're going to download your data from your bank. It needs to be a CSV file. You might get a spreadsheet, a .xls or a .xlsx. You might get a spreadsheet and you'll have to convert it to a CSV like that. Do a file, save as, change the type to CSV. Once you have downloaded the data from your bank and converted it to a CSV file, here on the QFloors website, you'll log in. So it shows me logged in. You'll click the support login button here. And then right under this, you can go to application notes, or you'll have that over here. This particular document we'll be looking at is not in the checkbook section. It's in this data importing and technical items section. This is the CSV Checkbook Reconciliation Report. So let's view that. It opens in another tab here. The CSV file must be in the format found below. That's this rules for CSV section here. Click the checkbook main button. Select reconcile. So this is how to do the import once you have this set up and saved. And then browse to and select the CSV file. So we're going to focus on this part here for a moment. You've downloaded your data. So let's look at a spreadsheet I've created out here. Here's the, say this is the one we originally downloaded from the bank. And I've got it saved as a CSV file. When you open a CSV file, the columns are all the exact same width. You might have to stretch things out a little bit. You can click on this button up here at the top left and double click in between any one of those, and every column will go as wide or as narrow as it needs to be for the data that's in it. Okay, so there's our file. Let's come back to our instructions. Must be in the following format. The first row is a header row. So we're going to need a row across the top for headers. Cell A1 must have the following indicator. 2 tildes, that's called a tilde. That's just up across the top. You have your numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over to 0. To the left of the number 1, if you hold the shift key down, you get that tilde symbol. So we need 2 of those, and then the word clear with a capital C, a space, and the word date. That text must be, so I'm going to highlight it and copy it. Come back to my spreadsheet. Well, I shouldn't have copied yet. Oh yeah, it's got, I downloaded from my bank, and it's got this date here. I'm just going to right click and paste, press enter or tab, and there I've got my cell A1 indicator. The rest of the column headings really, it doesn't matter how you name them, how you label them. Over here, column B going down must be a column of check numbers. Column C must be a column of descriptions and amounts, and D, and then this credit or debit we'll talk more about later. The only required field that the only column that must have something down every row in the column is the amount. So right in here, if we had an amount column, which we don't, every single one of those would need to have an amount. instead of having one over here like this bank downloaded it. Okay, so we'll fix that. But it doesn't have to say check number, or it doesn't have to say description. It can say whatever you want there. But having some sort of label at the top helps you. The only one that really matters is that one. Okay, so we must have some dates. We don't must have, but we have some dates, check numbers. Notice these deposits, and must have been an electronic transaction. There are no check numbers. Okay, let's talk about this amount. This bank gave the data to us with two columns, the checks and withdrawals in one column called debits, and the deposits in another column called credits. Now, as a side note, that's backwards from debits and credits in your own checking account. In your accounting, a debit to your checkbook is a deposit that will increase it. A credit to your checkbook is a withdrawal. That's so the banks do it differently. When you have your personal account or your business account, they give you the little register booklet that has a debit and credit column, and really they're backwards. In accounting for your business, a debit will increase the account, a credit will decrease the account in the accounting in the journals. But this is how the banks do it, every one of them. So we need a column of amount. So I'm going to right click here. No, I'm not. I'm going to do this a different way. I'm going to get all of this highlighted. Just click and drag. And I'm going to use this sort option over here. And I'm just going to click sort, custom sort. I want to sort by the debit column. It has headers at the top, so it knows to ignore that row. And okay, so now I have all of these separated. I can click on these and drag them over now. Control Z will undo that. Did you see how I get that highlighted? Move the mouse over here, you get a little different looking arrow. Click while that's showing and just drag it over. Now they're all in one column. I can call this amount. Okay. Then if you wanted, you could get that highlighted and click sort. Let's do a custom sort and sort it by date again. Okay. Let's save our changes. Okay, let's come back to our instructions. The credit debit column. A credit is a letter C and the debit is a letter D. That's all that column would have if you use it. You don't have to use that column. Let me back up just a minute. Every one of these columns should be accounted for, should be present in your spreadsheet. You want to have the column there even if you're going to leave it blank. Remember, the only one that cannot be blank is this one. Everything down the column must have something on every row. But we could leave this one blank. We can leave it called credit, we can leave it called debit, we can call it that. So I did Control S as in save on my keyboard, saving it. Yes, I want to keep it in that CSV format. Okay, so if you use this column, a C is a credit, and remember in the bank's terminology that would be a deposit, and the debit would be a check. It's backwards from your accounting. All amounts are positive if you are using this column. So if we were going to use this column and put here, let's see, a debit is a check. So there's a negative, there's a check, so I'm going to put a capital D. If we're going to use that column, let me switch back to this. All amounts must be positive. Okay, so it's actually a little bit more work. We can leave them as they are. If they came over as negatives and positives, then I don't need to do that. But if we were going to use this, we'd have to click in here and take that negative out. Go down and take the negative out, and then I would probably put my D's and C's here first so I can tell which is which. I'm going to do Control Z and undo that. But to me it's easier, just leave it like this and don't use this column. Now if your bank gave you a column of all positive numbers, then hopefully they gave you a column that indicated a debit or credit or deposit or withdrawal, something like that. Or you can tell by maybe by the description. But for my purposes, I'd say we're done. That's good enough for me. So we'll save again. You can do Control S on your keyboard. I like doing that. You could save it here, get the same message. In Excel, even though you just saved it, when you close that CSV file, it asks you want to save your changes. I just saved it. No, I'm okay not saving it this time. Okay, invalid characters. Don't have any of these in the CSV file, so you might need to go through, let's open this up again. You might have to go through your bank's description and other data and see if they have any of these invalid characters. No parentheses, left or right parentheses, no double quote marks, no commas, no asterisks, no single apostrophe mark. Okay? Can't have any of those in the file anywhere. So now we have our file ready. We can use it to reconcile what's in the QFloors checkbook. And by the way, just to show you, if you had some, we had a character in here that was invalid, and if we had a character in here that was invalid, you can highlight that column, and here's this find and select button here. You can use that. We want to do a replace. Or if you don't see that button, or if you're not familiar with the new layout of Microsoft Excel, you can do Control H on your keyboard, find all asterisks, and replace them with nothing. I'll click Replace All. Well, that didn't work, did it? I'm going to Control Z. I think the asterisk is a special symbol. We're going to type 2 of those. Okay, I don't know how Excel does that. Sorry. Should work with the quote mark. There we go. See, it got rid of the 1. We'll have to do some hunting around in Microsoft's explanation about the asterisk mark, how to tell it work with only that. It's obviously a wild card. It's deleting everything. Doing a find an asterisk means find everything, obviously, to Microsoft Excel. Okay, we'll save that and close it. Now we're ready to import. So in the checkbook screen, sorry, QFloors here, you have your checks and your deposits and reconciliation. It really doesn't matter what date you put up in here. What you're going to do is click this CSV Clear button down here. And find your file. So it opens up. On the left-hand side, this is a little divider section that's blank over here. The Q's or the QFloors data. This is what's in your checkbook register. This is what's coming from the bank. if it recognizes an exact match on the check number and the amount, it checks it off for you. It can't really do that on the deposits. The bank might have something in that column for check numbers indicating a deposit, might have a D or a DEP or deposit, or it might say something. QFloors is always going to have this deposit number, D number. Okay, so it can't match those up exactly. It knows the amount, so it says that's a potential match, yes. That was an electronic transaction. In QFloors, it was a transfer from the checking account to my American Express credit card to make a payment. So it recognized the match on the amounts. Let's narrow this up a little bit. So when it's checked off for you, you know that found an exact match between check number and amount. We can skip it. And so you can go through and verify all of these and check them off. And then click your finalize button, and what will happen is it will check off all of those items out here when you click done. Sorry, you have to click done next. There they are. So you can see when you're doing your checkbook reconciliation, you have a lot of transactions for your business, that can be a really big time saver. I'm going to show you some variations on this. I'm going to get all of this unchecked. Let me show you how I did that. Click on one of them, either the top or the bottom. Hold the shift key while you click the other end of the group. Click this check or uncheck. Hold the shift key while you click the other end of the group, either the top or the bottom, either way. Okay. Now, I have this checking download all. That's really the same as the original. These two are the same as each other now. So what we're going to work with is this checking download one. I'm going to open this and show you what we're dealing with. Here we have the bank's data downloaded, but it was partially through the month. Here we are back in August, and we wanted to do a reconciliation part way through the month. So you download the data and you get up through the 12th. So if we were to import that, let's see, that's the checking download one. And there it's showing us the items that it can match exactly. We can verify the deposits. That electronic transaction, and finalize, and click done, and it checks those off for us. Then later in the month or early the next month, we go and download the rest of the data. Now you want to be careful, because you could end up downloading from the bank the entire register for that month. If you're able to, if you can, try and download everything from the date after the last download that you did from the bank. We have a question here from Amy asking, what if there are some QFloors items that are several cents or dollars off, but maybe was simply written wrong in QFloors, or the person put it in another account. Okay, I actually have a scenario set up to look at that, Amy, where we're going to see what happens if the amount is different. If it's in a different account, then it just won't show up. I actually haven't tried that in here, but I'm pretty sure we'll do a little test. So what if your transaction in QFloors should have been in your checking account, you accidentally created the transaction in the wrong account in your QFloors. So we'll look at that to be sure. Okay, so when you download this data from your bank later in the month or early the next month, it's time to finish the reconciliation. Try and get the data dated after the date of the last download you did. So we come back in here. CSV clear, that's this checking download 2. We click open and you see none of it's checked. We don't have any check numbers. All we have are some electronic transactions and some deposits, and so we can verify and then finalize. Now I'm not going to finalize here. I want to show you what happens if we do download everything from the bank again, even the stuff that we downloaded earlier and already reconciled. So let's show you what happens with that. That's this. You'll see it has those checks where it can do an exact match. It has those checked off again. But you can't do anything with them. You can't check or uncheck them. It recognizes those are already marked. Here's a deposit from that earlier date, and it shows it matches up. It's a good potential match, but I'm clicking. It won't let you click or unclick. I don't know the technological reason why the programmers won't let us check that, or why does it not show that it's already checked. I don't know, but that's how it works. So if you focus on after that earlier date, we did 1 through the 12th, and here we have all the rest of the data, then you can go through and check that off. But again, ideally just download sections from the bank as you go throughout the month. Okay, it didn't uncheck those previously checked deposits and things like that we couldn't check or uncheck in that reconcile window. Just leaves them checked out here and checks off the additional items. Okay, let's get this unchecked. Okay, to answer Amy's question a little more fully, let's show you what happens if there's a difference. So I created this other spreadsheet file, the CSV file, where it's the entire data, the whole month, but one or two of the items have a difference. I think I just had one of them has a difference. So we'll come back in here, we'll click our clear button. That's this file here. No checkbox. It recognized this deposit here, 42.45.72. It's not listed over here as an available item because there is no match. It did list the banks with a 0, but there's no checkbox because there's nothing in QFloors that matches it. Okay, so we can go through the rest of it, but we either have something that the bank cleared that we didn't create in QFloors, or we've got a wrong amount. So let's look at the other part of Amy's question. What if one of our transactions, let's just take this check number, we'll take this August 31st payment to our Visa, and we're going to move it to a different account. The way you move a transaction to a different account might be helpful to some of you. Rather than voiding it and recreate it, we've seen some of our customers doing that. You don't have to. Just move it. So we go find the item. So we're in the account where we can click on the item. Then click on the date and press the Enter key on the keyboard. That gives you a red Save button. Before we save, we'll switch to some other account. Switching bank accounts, yes. Okay, so that $4,240 transaction is no longer showing in here. And if we do our reconciliation, let's take this one. We get this again. So it's in the bank's data, it's not in QFloors in that account. So you'd have to do some hunting, some research, just like that other one with the amounts being different. You'd have to do some research, figure out what's going on. Why do I not have a transaction to match with in QFloors if it cleared the bank? It's either the wrong amount or in the wrong account. Move it back. There it is. If you don't see a transaction in here, you can click one of the columns to sort and resort, and it should refresh that window. Okay, we're going to finish this up. So we check off everything and finalize. We're done. We have our statement in front of us. It's time to actually finalize the reconciliation. The beginning balance should be correct. That's the ending balance from the last time you reconciled. And then type in the ending statement balance. And with everything checked off that's on the statement, if the amounts are correct, you should end up with a zero difference here. Now, if it's not zero, then there's something in QFloors at the wrong amount, or at least at an amount different from what the bank showed, or you have your numbers typed in here incorrectly, or you have something checked that shouldn't be checked, or something needs to be checked that isn't checked, some transactions in the wrong account, things like that. But all that should work itself out as you do the CSV clear and checking things off, matching them up in there. Once you have a zero difference, or at least a difference you can live with, if it is a zero, if it's not a zero difference, you can still save it. Let's change this here. And you can still save it, but it'll ask you, the reconcile doesn't balance. In order to finish, QFloors must automatically insert a balancing transaction of that amount. So it'll do either a debit or credit to your bank account, and the offsetting credit or debit will be to the cash over and short account. So we can click yes and allow that if you're okay with that. Or you go hunt it down, research it, fix it. You have a zero difference. And then when you save, would you like to print a reconcile report? Absolutely yes. Right now, QFloors does not allow you to go back and reprint a previous reconciliation. There's some technological reasons for that. There's one main reason is we do allow you to void transactions that have been cleared previously, to allow for mistakes where you cleared something and shouldn't have, or you cleared it at the wrong amount, whatever. And so reprinting a reconciliation where something's changed is quite a nightmare, but we're working out some things to hopefully allow that in the future. So I would say yes, I want this, but since you can't go back and print it later, install some sort of PDF writer, PDF printer software. This QtPDF.com is one. We're actually switching in our QCloud service. We're installing one called Bullzip, Bullzip, sorry, Bullzip.com. But any free PDF writer, hopefully one that doesn't give you some sort of advertisement printed on the PDF output. We know that those two don't. So save it as a PDF, and then you can always go back and open it later. So wherever you're going to save it to, we'll call this maybe you need to list the bank. Now you can always go back to that. Make sure you back those up. You may want those protected. Don't save them in a place where any employee can get to those. Maybe that's important to you. And then you can go and open that document and print it. Here we are. Print it to paper now. Give that to your accountant if they need it, whatever you need it printed for. Attach it to your statement, things like that. File it with your paper records. Okay? Any other questions? Amy, thank you for your question. That was an excellent question. That scenario I hadn't thought of. What if the transaction's in the wrong account? Thanks for bringing that up. I am going to point out one other thing here. We had a 0 difference when we saved the reconciliation, that difference at the top here. That simply means the starting balance from the statement plus the checks that are checked off, or I'm sorry, the deposits that are checked off that cleared, minus the checks that are checked off, those items that cleared, equals the ending balance. There's no difference between all of that. But there is another difference that is maybe more important. Just as important is this difference at the bottom of our printed report. The reconciled, which is your statement ending balance, plus and minus any uncleared deposits and checks in that time period, we don't have a difference. That means, compared to your register balance for that time period. So August 31st, we don't have any difference between what the bank had as cleared items and what the bank's ending balance is. Add and subtract anything that did not clear in that same time period up through August 31st. Compared to our register balance, August 31st, no difference. You can verify that anytime you'd like. Is my checkbook register in line with my bank? So if this is the ending statement balance from the last reconciliation I did as a starting balance, and remember that math is statement ending plus uncleared items minus uncleared items. So if we come back to this and we check off all of the uncleared items that are in there right now after you've saved your reconciliation, this could be mid-month, get everything checked off, this cleared balance should equal your register balance. At your right now, as of now, register balance. If you actually, this yellow box here, this total at the bottom of your register includes any post-dated checks. So if you dated some checks for October, December, something like that, you might need to change this to all dates. But whether you do or don't change it to all dates, this yellow total box here includes those post-dated items. So you might need to change this so that those post-dated items show up in here so you can check them off. So if you leave it at today's date, they won't show up in here to check, to click them off and compare to that balance. So get everything checked off. The cleared balance should equal your register balance. You know that there's no problem in your checking account. There you have it. That's reconciling with a CSV file that you've downloaded from your bank. If you have any questions about that, you can always come back to our website, go to the training videos. So you'll have a link over here to training videos, or you have a link when you click the little arrow on your company name, the button up here, training videos. So out here we record these webinars. Make sure you read this important section here. It's important that you read that and do that so you can see it in a little bit higher resolution, larger screen. But anyway, here's all the videos. Some of them are not webinars, they're just videos we created. But you'll see this one. We'll put that down in this checkbook section. That might be the same content where we will be replacing that. I didn't know that was here. It's pretty old if it is. Thanks again for participating, and thank you for using QFloors. Have a good afternoon.